when I brought up with coworkers that I was going to be interviewing you, I said, like, hey, does anybody have any questions? And multiple people, the first thing they wanted to know is, why the was that Lion King game so hard?
Well, there's a real answer there. Disney had been doing some research on rentals at Blockbuster. So for those folks listening to this podcast that are not quite as long in the tooth as myself, people used to go and rent video games. This was a thing. Uh-huh. And if they rented it and they took it home and they got too far in the game, Disney's analytics showed that they wouldn't buy the game. And so it was critically important to Disney that they not get more than a certain percentage of the game before one night's rental, which was, I think, they estimated 6 hours or 8 hours of play. The problem is this came in very, very late. We only had from January to July to make the game to begin with, from soup to nuts. So this came very late in the day, and we didn't have a lot of flexibility on how we could scale the difficulty. We made the argument that because the game is two games, you have the young cub and the adult lion, that once you switch to the adult lion, all we had to do is make sure that you got a chance to taste that, and that would be a better place. But that's halfway through the game. Right. That was too far in their mind. So we had to make one of the early levels difficult, and the only one to do it easily was to expand the monkeys on the Can't Wait to Be King level. Yeah. So much to the chagrin and absolute protest of Seth Mendelsohn, who was the lead designer, and basically everybody on the team, we added a big section of this monkey puzzle and just kept making it harder till it tested to the level that was necessary. But if you get past the monkey puzzle and just go Google it, it'll tell you how to get past it. The game does not ramp up difficulty there. It has a natural ramp past that puzzle all the way through the rest of the game.
I cannot imagine being a game designer on that team and just being like, this is complete bullshit. Like, kids are going to buy this game. It doesn't need to crush their souls.
Yes. Oh, well, I got to say, Aladdin was very difficult too. And at the time, platform games were very hard. And the guys who did Super Meat Boy really understood that. And they brought back that difficulty. I mean, Dark Souls, look at that. Another game. Freaking hard. So there was a time, again, for all the people who don't have as much gray hair, there was a time when video games were hard. They were actually hard. Okay? There was none of this you can't fail thing, And what happened, of course, is over time, challenge and that sense of achievement was replaced with a sense of progress and progression, and you just added more content. Games just got bigger and deeper and longer, and so you could make them a lot easier, as people would still get enough entertainment value to feel like it was a good use of their time and money. So that's what really replaced difficulty. It used to just be, we didn't have the resources to make something that would give you 60 hours of gameplay if it was really easy. We would burn through it too fast. So we just had to make games harder. And I go back, some of our games were just freaking hard. All of them were. Dragon Strike was hard. It was, I've gone back and played it again. Man, that game was hard. Even Monopoly, we made that game with the AI. The AI was brutal. It was very good at Monopoly.
That's how it is.
10 years old, and he used to play it all the time. And he went to my mom and played the board game with her and beat her repeatedly. And she said, "How do you play that game?" So she actually got the game to play it as well. So
I'm amazed that you guys. How many months did it take to make Lion King?
Well, we got the contract. We got the deal in principle in November of 93. We got the first drop of assets and the story in February of 94. By April of 94, early May, we realized that the only way we were going to get this game done was to go to Disney, because we were getting dribs of information. They just wouldn't send us anything. So we flew out to Florida, and I was there for, I think, 23 days or 26 days in Florida, and then brought the core team out there. It was only 13 people at Westwood that made both the SNES and Genesis versions. And then we had a team at Disney Studios under Patrick Gilmore's that helped with a lot of the artwork and really saved us. They helped get the quality bar up there because we were just scrambling to get everything done. They really held a high bar. And they also helped with some of the volume of work, so hats off to those guys. They often don't get mentioned, and it's important. They were a big contributing part. We had to finish the game by July and Gold Master it. Basically, they weren't called Gold Masters. They were just Master Proms at the time. And I remember, a lot of people would say, well, there were quite a few bugs in it. We had some problems, and there definitely wasn't as clean as we would have liked. But I remember sending the masters out to both Nintendo and Genesis, and I said, look, this is the last day that you can pack it into your boxes. It's all your manufacturing deadlines. If you don't want to approve it, that's cool. We're going to keep working on it. but we'll miss the pack-in. And it was so commercially important that the game be packed in that we did ship it with some known issues that I would have loved to address.
Yeah.
Not the least of which was the difficulty that we would have loved to have more time to make a more convincing argument, do more studies. We just didn't have time.
Well, with the remake of the Lion King coming out this year, if you had to make a new Lion King game, what would you go for? Okay, you'd get rid of the bugs and stuff like that, but would you change the genre? What's your vision for a Lion King remake game?
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Somebody else mentioned that to me. I have no idea what they're doing. So I guess the first question I would ask is am I remaking the Lion King platformer? Because if so, then I know what I would do. I have very strong ideas about that. If I was just going to make a game about Lion King, I think that there could be a third person. You have a character. The whole thing is Simba's journey. It's a rite of passage or journey of passage. So I think it would be critically important to have Simba on the screen. Like I certainly wouldn't do point of view for that. So I would definitely go third person or third character. And I think you could make an action adventure game that could be really exciting and fun. And you could bring the savannah to life. There could be some fun things you could do with around playing lion games. One of the things working on the game while they were working on the film, which was so neat, was all the research that the animators did on real lions and what they do. And if you look at the prides in Africa, the lions, especially the young female lions, they do a lot of essentially games that teach them how to hunt and such. And so I think it could be really fun to build up the skill of the ability that you're going to need to use as a lion doing that. So I could see it being a super fun thing. If you were doing the platformer, then of course you're going to do the butt bounce thing. But I would the pounce. But I think for the total clean slate, I would go for third person. Because I actually have no idea what they're doing too, so I could be way off on what they decided.
Wait, on what? Who decided?
You said a remake of Lion King, or talking?
Oh yeah, remake for the film that's coming out this year.
Oh, I thought you made a game. Somebody else mentioned a remake of the game. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So,
that'd be interesting.
Okay, yeah, no, the film. You're talking about the live. That's going to be kick-ass. Sorry, I was way off on a tangent there because I thought you were talking about. So,
no, that's
the
awesome.
film I'm super excited to see. And I love the animators of Disney because they bring their craft to the digital realm. And of course, so much of Pixar's influence on all of that as well. So granted, they are very different studios. I've worked with Disney Animation Studios as well as Pixar. Those are different companies. But I'm super excited about what they're going to do for the film. I saw that opening sequence and it put a lump in my throat the same way the original did. That's actually how I got to do Lion King. Was we were sitting at Virgin and Martin Alper said, I've got a project I think you might be interested in. And he knew I love Disney. And I'm like, you know what? Not really. Don't want to. We got so much stuff going on. He goes, you come and see the first 5 minutes. And if you see the first 5 minutes and you don't want to make the product, we're done and we're fine. And I'm like, bastard. Of course I had to do it. So
you should have just called his bluff. Just watch the Circle of Life opening and just be like, meh, I don't think this film's going to be a hit. We're good. And just walk out of there. Just see how they react.
Lot of controversy at the time because the former animal movie Disney had done was Oliver and Company, and it didn't work out well, and so there was a lot of risk associated with that. Who's going to go see an animal movie by Disney? They want princesses, and it's not even about a princess. It's actually about a prince that becomes king. So it's also a boy character, which was another these were just oh, you can't do this. Same thing with Blade Runner. I mean, when we did Blade Runner, they go, it's a 10-year-old movie. It's a cult classic. How many people who care about Blade Runner play video games? It's like there's going to be 5 people who buy this game. Thankfully, both cases, the pundits were very, very wrong. And I really believe strongly that if you have a franchise, it's incredibly important to lean into the franchise and do the product that the fans of that franchise really like.
Oh, yeah.
That often works out really well. It worked out well for the Dungeons and Dragons games we did, for Lion King, for Blade Runner, and others. And sometimes you may do something that you're hoping that's going to blow out of that niche, and all you do is satisfy that niche. But from a business and a creative point of view, that's the risk worth taking, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. The crazy thing about that Lion King. What's that?
Intellectual property deposits instead of withdrawals. It's very important that when you build a product around an intellectual property, the fan of that property feels enriched by having experienced that bit, whether it's a cap or a piece of merchandise or whatever. You want those fans to feel like it was authentic and that it added to the value of the IP. And if you can hold your head high and say you did that, even if it doesn't have the greatest sales, I think you've done the right thing.
Yeah, and fans of The Lion King were enriched because playing the game, they get to see characters and settings that were originally going to be in the film then were cut out, right?
Yeah. In the game, as well as I don't know about the new movie, of course, probably not in the movie, I would imagine.
Yeah.
In the game, that was something I'm able to talk about now. But Disney's famous for when it's cut, it's cut. It's like they don't recirculate the stuff that didn't make it. But the big sequences that were originally part of there was big pieces of the film that were cut because the story wasn't well served. Once Simba decides to leave the Hakuna Matata Valley with Pumbaa and Timon, and he goes to the Pride Lands. That's a decision that all this journey. That's where a lot of our game is as an adult lion. But that's because we need to have levels to teach you how to play it, and also have some more context there, some bit longer game. In the film, it didn't do anything because the character doesn't change. So the decision was to cut all that stuff. So lots of that stuff was all this concept work that had never made it into the film. So that became the fodder for the game.
And it's so fun that that's our only glimpse now, is this weird 16-bit version of like, oh, that monkey, the animation looks great on him. I wish I could see what it actually looks like from Disney.
Well, and the Disney animators did do the animation for the gorilla and all the other characters. So when you see those characters were animated by Disney animators who worked on the film.
That's so awesome.
So
That's so
that
cool.
stuff didn't make it into the film, but they did the animation.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.